an ingredient which is Whitney stratification. So let me recall. Let me remind you what are properties of Whitney stratification. There are two properties, A and B, and these two properties will be useful for the construction of a radial vector field. The property A, if you have so I will call X the space, and as we have seen yesterday, I will X of dimension n, xn minus 1, xn minus 2, xn minus alpha, like that, and xn minus alpha minus xn minus alpha minus 1, this will be the stratum Sn minus alpha with dimension n minus alpha, and which is smooth, okay? And the closure of Sn minus alpha is xn minus alpha. So, that's bad. Better, like that. And we call alpha the dimension, not the codimension. Sorry. So if I have a pair of stratum, S beta will be this stratum, the two-dimensional one, and S alpha, that one. Okay? So the condition, A condition, A Whitney condition, says that if you have a sequence of points in the big stratum, xn, say xn, going to a point epsilon in S alpha, and such that the sequence of tangent planes, the limit of tangent planes in xn in S beta exists for xn going to epsilon. So if this limit exists, say T, then T contains the tangent space to S alpha in epsilon. This is the first condition. So it means that we have here the limit T, which is in my case a two-dimensional space, and it contains the tangent space to S alpha in epsilon. Okay, this is the first condition. And the second one, condition B, so these are the classical conditions. So I take a sequence of points XL in the big stratum, S beta. S alpha is in the closure of S beta. I have the point epsilon here. And I take another sequence of points in S alpha going to epsilon as well, and you consider the secant xn, so xp, say yp, and you assume that first of all this limit exists. For xn going to epsilon, and you assume that the limit of the direction xn yn exists, say lambda, for xn going to epsilon as well as epsilon going to epsilon. So you assume that these two limits exist, and the condition B says that lambda is in T. Okay? So it means that this sequence of sequence, the limit lambda lies in T. Okay? So these are the two Whitney stratification. I don't know if you are well aware. Maybe it's good to give a counterexample because to show that this is not always the case. And the classical counterexample consists taking S beta, taking S alpha. S alpha will be a straight line in the cone. All the straight line, including the vertex of the cone, and S beta, the rest of the cone. And it's clear that if you take a sequence of points xn along the directrix of the cone different from S alpha, if you take xn here, along the line, the limit will be a plane here, the limit of tangent plane to xn at xn to S beta, the limit does not contain the tangent plane at that point epsilon to S alpha. That's clear. The limit of tangent plane is different and does not contain the direction S alpha. That's clear. And also, if you take epsilon here, epsilon n, it's clear that the limit will not be in T. Okay, so this is a counterexample. And if you want a witness stratification from this, you have to add epsilon as S gamma, a zero-dimensional stratum. Then you can show, with exercise, that conditions A and B are verified. Okay, for all level strata, such that S alpha is contained in the closure of S alpha. Well, okay, so these two conditions, A and B, Whitney condition. Well, now we know that B implies A, but we will use A and B separately. Well, so for the radial vector field construction, I will start by the local one. And then I will go to the global one. Okay. So, the local construction will be the following.
A question, is the singular frames an example of Whitney stratification in the general linear group?
Yeah. You say, repeat please.
Is the set of singular n frames in the like a linear transformation that has determinant 0 an example of Whitney stratification?
I think yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so the local construction will be like that. I take first an example, and then I will explain the details. So I take this will be the stratum S alpha, and the rest of the blackboard is the linear stratum S beta. Okay, and I have a vector field with isolated singularity at that point, say A. Tangent S alpha. And I want to extend this vector field in a radial way. You see that the vector field is tangent to S alpha with an isolated singularity at that point. S alpha is smooth, so you can compute the usual index for the vector field at that point, well defined. When you compute this index along the stratum S alpha, I put here. Okay? And what we do what we will do is extend this vector field in the ambient space. Well, here, ambient space will be, the blackboard itself will be the bigger stratum, but after that we will see in a more particular case. But I want to give, first of all, the idea of the construction, of the local construction. What? So we will extend this vector field, V, in the ambient space, say M, X, your space is embedded in M, ambient, smooth, manifold. Okay? And what we will do is to extend this vector field in the neighborhood of the point A, of the stratum S alpha. In fact, in a tubular neighborhood around S alpha. How do you do that? First of all, the construction is local, so you can assume that you are in some Euclidean space. So you have metric, you have all these things you will need. You will need to speak, for example, of parallel vector field. It's clear on the blackboard that I can take a parallel vector field, like that. Okay? That's clear. This parallel vector field, of course, has a set of singularities, which is here. Okay? All these points are singular points of the parallel vector field. And then I can consider another vector field will be the transversal vector field. The transversal vector field, oh, I need another color, that one. The transversal vector field will be a vector field which vanish along S alpha, and which is growing, which is transversal to S alpha. In fact, will be the gradient of the distance to S alpha if you want something explicit. Okay? And this vector field is vanish along S alpha and is growing as far as you go far from S alpha. What does it mean? It means it is 0 along S alpha, and then this vector field is small, like that. And then growing with the distance to S alpha. And then growing. Okay? So you take the parallel and you take a transversal vector. The sum of both of them gives you a vector field like that. Like that. Which is equal to your original vector field V along S alpha. Okay? And it's clear that the sum of the transversal, of the parallel plus transversal gives a new vector field that I will call W. And this W has isolated as a also here isolated singularity at the point A. It's not difficult, and I think that with the tools Pepe gave last week, it's not difficult to see that now this vector field W at an isolated singular at A, and it is defined in the neighborhood of A in the ambient space, which is smooth, which is a manifold, so you can as well compute the index of this vector field inside your manifold M. Okay? So you have two indices. Indices of V along S alpha, and the indices of this extended vector field, which is the radial extension. That will be the radial extension. Radial extension of V. Okay? And the main property, and that is the first very nice observation by Marie-Hélène Schwartz is that this construction of radial extension gives you a vector field such that the two indices are equal. And you can use, I think, tools that Pepe gave last week, more or less. You did not give? But it's an easy exercise. You can do by yourself to prove that these two are equal. In the example I gave here, it's more or less obvious. Okay? Well, so the two indices are equal. This goes.
I also say that it was an exercise.
So I can answer. Who makes the exercise that they asked for? Okay, so exercise. This.
Second chance.
This second. Okay, so this is, in fact, what I explained here is one stratum in, I will say, ambient space directly. The problem is that, in general, X is singular variety, which is stratified like that. And that you want to extend your vector field in such a way that the vector field is stratified. It is tangent to the strata. And in fact, if you proceed with this construction in a singular variety like that you have here exactly S alpha with your vector field V. This is S alpha and the vector field V like that, with the isolated singular point in A. And now you do the same. You take the parallel vector field at a point, maybe I will do this smaller y here. Okay, so you can see here a point here S beta, say x, that point. And you take the parallel vector field at that point here. A priori, there is no reason for this vector parallel at the point x. There is no reason for this vector to be tangent to S beta, to the big stratum S beta. There is no reason. Okay? S beta can be, so your vector is parallel to this one, at the point here, but no reason to be parallel, to be tangent to S beta. If you use this construction, you see that the vector V, so I have to give a name, A, like you say V, that one V, V of V, here, V of V is a tangent to S alpha. Okay? And so maybe I will call it Y, that will be the same as other picture. Okay? So you have a vector at the point Y. The fact that the tangent space to S beta near Y, if you go to Y, you see that the limit T contains the tangent space in Y to S alpha. So if you have a vector here, and if you are near Y in the stratum S beta, then the angle of the tangent space to X, so the angle of the tangent space to X to S beta with the tangent space to Y S alpha is small. It's small because the limit contains the tangent. Okay? So if you are near, well, I don't want to write everything with epsilon. If you read Marie-Hélène Schwartz, it's you have all epsilon, and it's very difficult to read. That's the reason for which not many people look at the paper. But that's clear from the A condition. Okay? That is clear from A condition. What does it mean? It means that the parallel vector, which is V parallel to X, is in the direction of the tangent phase to y, at y, to S alpha. Okay? So the angle of Tx S beta and V parallel at x is small. Certainly not orthogonal. Okay, if you are near. What does it mean? It means that you can take the projection, orthogonal projection of V parallel x on Tx S beta does not if you are near the point. Okay, that's very important. And what we will call the parallel extension will not be the parallel to the usual sense, but will be this orthogonal projection. Okay, so you take in each point, you take the projection of the parallel vector field on the tangent base to S beta at that point. And this projection does not vanish. So you can take it, and then you obtain a stratified vector field. Because at each point, for each stratum, you do the same process. So you have a stratified vector field. There is a small problem that I will speak later on. Okay. Oh, I can speak now. No, I will speak later. Okay, so this is the parallel construction. And then you take the transversal vector field. Okay? So the transversal vector field, I say, is the gradient to the distance. So in fact, in each point, the transversal vector field is like that. I will take it like that. It's a vector field which is orthogonal to S alpha. Okay? If you so this is the big transversal. And you can see more or less with same argument, but using condition B, that the angle of the transversal vector field here, the angle of the transversal at x and the tangent phase at x S beta is small, because the transversal vector field is something which is in an orthogonal direction relatively to S alpha. Okay, and you use condition B, so easy exercise, you see that the angle here is small if you are always near. Okay, and you can write all this with epsilon if you wish. Okay, so the angle is small, certainly not orthogonal. You have here the V transversal, you have the, at that point x, you have the tangent space to S beta. And the angle is small, so you can take the projection of the transversal vector field on the tangent base at that point to S beta. Okay, and this is not zero, does not vanish. And what you will call the transversal vector field will be this, the projection. Okay, on each stratum. There is a problem. Do you see the problem? You want a continuous vector field. Is it continuous? No. Why? This, if you take this for all strata, okay, you do this process. So you project the parallel and you project the transversal on the tangent base to each stratum. And it's easy to see that what you obtain is, okay, it's a stratified vector field, but it is not continuous. Why? Let me give me a very simple example. Say that S alpha is that point, and S beta is this. Okay, and take, for example, will be something like that. At that point, like that. Okay? Like that. And at that point, if you are on S beta, Y, you take the transversal. Okay? And you project on the tangent to S beta. We have seen that the projection does not vanish if you are near the point. Okay? So you take the projection, and the projection will be this vector. So this will be the ray transversal at Y. But if you are very near, the transversal will be along with that direction. And you see very well that this construction is not continuous at all. If you are near S beta in a bigger stratum, say S gamma, you will have such a vector, and then when you arrive on S beta, you take the projection on the tangent. So this is not continuous. And that's very bad. So what do you do? And this is for the reason for which construction of Marienstrass is very technical, and it needs to take care of many, many things. And this is the reason for which so many people looked at the construction of Marienstrass, which is a pity, because the idea is very simple, but to write everything is very complicated. I have to recognize. It's very technical. But we can understand. And we can understand how she is solving this problem in a very nice way. She says the following. Okay, here I have the transversal vector field on S gamma, the two-dimensional stratum here. I have the projection along S beta. And what do you do? What do you do? You consider a neighborhood of S beta, which is, I have no time, of course, to write all details, but a neighborhood which is like that. In fact, you can use, if you wish, for people knowing Tom Mather stratification, you can use the Tom Mather neighborhood of the stratum. And you take this tubular neighborhood. Along S beta, you take the transversal, which is the projection. So it is something like that. Okay, which is tangent to S beta. Because you took the projection. Outside of this tubular neighborhood, you take the usual transversal. Okay, like that. And now, if I am on the disk of this tubular neighborhood, what you do is at one point here, okay, so which is on the disk, so you have a parameter lambda. I have a point y, I have the point x dot, say, and for each point x, which is lambda x dot plus 1 minus lambda y, each point x here, you take the vector field, v transversal at x, will be lambda v transversal at x0 plus 1 minus lambda v transversal at y. And you see very well that if lambda is 1, here you find this one. If lambda is 0, it means at epsilon you have v of epsilon, and in between you have a homotopy between both, and you have now a continuous vector field. That is the transversal that you will consider. Okay, so you see that there are some technical things to take care in order to have a continuous vector field. Of course, when you write all this, you can imagine with epsilon and so on, it's not so easy. But the idea you can understand very well. What she does in order to have a continuous vector field. And in fact, if you do that, if you proceed to this for all strata, you see very well that it's quite complicated to write down, but the idea is very easy to understand. It's clear? This homotopy between both, in order to have a continuous vector field. Okay? Well, so now I can say the following. if I have a pair of strata, if I have a, not a pair of strata, if I have a, this picture, it's beta, the stratum is alpha. If I have a vector field, V, tangent to S alpha, is a singular point here. You extend in a tubular neighborhood, small tubular neighborhood of S alpha in M, in the ambient space, by this process, with parallel and with transversal. Okay? The parallel and the transversal will be for each stratum, the projection of the stratum, and in between, you take this homotopy in order to have a continuous vector field for the parallel and for the transversal as well. They have the same problem. Huh? Okay? And so I have now a vector field W around A in this tubular neighborhood with which is V W of X, which is V parallel of X plus V transversal of X. With this construction, with this process, and W has related singularity at A. That is the first property. Second property is that W is pointing outwards the tubular neighborhood that I will call UA, if you wish. Tubular neighborhood. It is a local construction, huh? So it is in the neighborhood of A along this boundary. Take care that, of course, if you think of the tubular neighborhood as a team, you have these two. The boundary, when I say the boundary is only this part. Huh? This part which is, I will say, parallel to S alpha. Okay? Not this part, of course. Okay? So it is pointing outwards. The boundary along the tubular neighborhood along the boundary, that is clear. I think it's clear by construction that you have this. Unfortunately, I erased this original picture, but the original picture shows this very well. So it is pointing outwards, with only A as a singular point. And the third property, which is a fundamental property that I wrote here, that I erased as well, is that the index of W at A in M is equal to the index of V at A computed in S alpha. Okay, so this is the property of the radial extension, local radial extension. Is it clear? It's a little technical, but I think it's clear the use of the two conditions, A and B, as well as this homotopy process in order to have a continuous vector field. That's clear? Okay, so the vector field we will consider will be radial in that sense. Now I need a global construction to prove the Poincaré of theorem for singular varieties. I want to prove a single Poincaré of theorem. That's what I want to do. Okay? Okay. So let us consider a singular variety. Okay? This is a piece of my singular variety. And I have here another piece. the same singularity, which means that in fact I have a stratum here. I will call it alpha. That stratum continues and then goes here. This is S alpha. Okay? So you have two pieces of the singularity, but in fact the same. Okay? So this is connected. And along this S alpha, the picture is always the same. It's always like this, the local picture. Okay? Here you have this local picture. Okay? And all along S alpha, you have the same. That's clear? You understand my picture? If you don't understand, say, because you will not understand the following. So here I have also the same, okay? So I assume that this is always the same picture. The variety is like that. Okay? Well, so how do you do to construct a global, not local, but global vector field now, radial vector field? First of all, if you have a zero-dimensional strata, which is the case here, I have another one-dimensional here, and I have zero-dimensional strata here, and here. If you have zero-dimensional strata, the radial vector field will be radial in the usual meaning, in the usual sense. Okay, what does it mean? It means radial, going outwards, outwards of a small ball. In fact, if you take a small ball around that point here, in the ambient space, so you are, I recall that you are in an ambient space M, which is a manifold. Okay? In fact, if you take a small ball, the boundary of the small ball will be transverse to all strata. This is by Bertini-Sat, sorry, no? Who says that?
It's by Whitney's lemma. Whitney's lemma, which says that
Whitney?
the point is always extracted with the Whitney stratification.
Yeah, which Whitney, in fact, you get to the. So the sphere will be transverse to the strata. And in fact, you can consider radial vector field in the common sense, pointing outwards the ball along the sphere, okay, like that, and which is stratified. What does it mean? It means if you have a point of the sphere along this strata, which is two-dimensional here, that point, the vector field is tangent to this stratum. Maybe it's better to give a name as beta. So the tangent here, this vector field is tangent to S beta. Here, it is tangent to the stratum, S alpha 2. Okay? Here it is tangent to S beta. Here it is tangent to S alpha. Here tangent to the stratum. So it is a stratified vector field. So you take stratified. So zero-dimensional strata. Stratified vector field pointing outwards the ball centered at the stratum, at the zero-dimensional stratum. Soon. Okay? Very badly written, but you understand very well. Okay? And it is, you look at the stratified vector field here as well as here. You have the stratified vector field, so tangent to the stratum, to all strata, and pointing outwards the ball. So it is clear that the first step of the condition says that for the zero-dimensional strata, the index obviously is 1 because it's pointing outwards the ball along the sphere. Okay, it's radial. So the index, see if A is zero-dimensional stratum, index of V is plus 1. And the index is computed in M, in the ambient space. Okay? For all zero-dimensional. This is easy. So, immediately, Euler characteristic of the zero-dimensional stratum is exactly the sum of the indices of E at A, and all of them are plus 1. Euler characteristic is the number of points. At each point you have plus 1, so it's Poincaré observation is true for the zero-dimensional stratum. Way. Now we have to continue. Okay? Look at the one-dimensional strata. How do you do? You look at this one-dimensional stratum here. Okay? S alpha. S alpha going to the point A0 to the point A1. Okay? So you have a one-dimensional stratum. These 2 points are singular points. But you know already your vector field, V is already known here in the ball till that point. You know already the vector field. It is already constructed inside the ball, as well as here. So you have a one-dimensional stratum, but with a vector field which is already known in the neighborhood of the boundary. Okay? It is open, the stratum is open, but you have the boundary, the 2 points, A0 and A1, the boundary of S alpha, and your vector field is already known and pointing inwards, the stratum. Remember that I gave you Poincaré theorem for a smooth manifold with boundary when the vector field is pointing inwards along the boundary. Okay, we have seen that. We will recall. Okay, and it is exactly the situation here. One-dimensional variety with boundary, the 2 points, and with a vector field which is pointing inwards along the boundary. Okay? In fact, the boundary, I will take the boundary as these 2 points, which is more clear. Okay, the boundary will be these 2 components, V1 and V0, because the vector field is already known on this segment A0, B0, and A1, B1. So I will say that I will take this part as the manifold. And you have a vector field pointing inwards along the boundary. Okay? Well, so what can you do? You use usual Poincaré theory, which says to you that you can extend your vector field inside, but with isolated singularities. For example, here I have isolated point. I will say y0, and then the vector field like that. Okay, y1, y2. So you can extend inside with isolated singular points. So second step, extend G inside S alpha, dimension of S alpha is 1, and V is known on the boundary. V0 union V1 pointing inward at these 2 points. Okay? So you can extend, you extend V with finite unity, isolated point, isolated singularity, y I. Okay? And it is tangent to S1. To S alpha. Tangent to S alpha. And now, in each of these points, I have exactly the situation that I had before. I have exactly this situation. So what does it mean? It means that I can extend the vector field radially I have an index. For the moment, I have the index for each y. V at each y along the SL path. Because I have isolated singularity, SL path is smooth, so I have this index. And I can extend radially by the local radial extension process, like that, in a tubular neighborhood. Okay? And in fact, what you have now, what you will obtain is a tubular neighborhood of S alpha. You have a tubular neighborhood, and you extend in this tubular neighborhood by that process. Okay? So, you will obtain a vector field, which is defined inside the tubular neighborhood. So, I will write here. Aha. You cannot extend more backwards. It's limited, no? Okay, so, sorry, but I have to erase that one. Go here. So, go extend. Now, extend. So, this is the first step, second step, third step. Extend V in tubular neighborhood. Of S alpha. I will call U alpha maybe. U alpha is this tubular neighborhood. Okay? By local radial process. That gives the vector field V in the tubular neighborhood, U alpha, with these properties. Same singularity as V. Oh, I will call V tilde maybe the extension, okay? So, it has the same singularity as V that has the point yi. It is pointing outwards U alpha along the boundary. Okay, so that means your vector field is like that, pointing outwards here, and without singularity, no singularity on the boundary. Okay, pointing outwards everywhere. Okay, it is defined in the tubular neighborhood, the same singularity as V, okay, and pointing outwards. And moreover, the index with M of V tilde at yi is the same than the index, that this index, V yi. The same index. Okay? Well, there are things I don't say that, of course, the local says that it's locally, but when there is no singularity, you can the extension by this process, radial process, does not give any singularity anymore. Okay, so that is more or less clear. Okay, so I think this is clear. And then, what is the Euler characteristic of the stratum S alpha? The Euler characteristic of S alpha minus the Euler characteristic of the boundary is equal to the sum of indices. To this. I write index of V I y because at x and y because either this or this is the same. Okay? If you wish, you can write M. Now I call V as well, the extension as well. Okay? Here, And this is in fact here, if you wish, here is the index of V at A0 plus the index of V at A1. If I go on the other side, you find that the Euler characteristic of the closure of S alpha is equal to the sum of the indices of V at all points, all singular points, for all singularities. And this is Poincaré of theorem. So we have Poincaré of theorem for dimension 1. Haha. Okay. Now you can continue by yourself, because you see very well here that you have this two-dimensional stratum. For this two-dimensional stratum, the boundary. Now, of course, you make the same process for all one-dimensional strata. You have the same process here. You have the tubular neighborhood as well. Tubular neighborhood is as well. Tubular neighborhood for each. So you do the same process for all of them. So now, look at S beta. S beta is two-dimensional. The boundary is S alpha. The boundary is made by this strata. But you know already your vector field in the neighborhood. Oh, like this. Look at, you have something like that. The vector field is known here in the neighborhood of this part of the boundary. Is known here and is known also in boundary in the neighborhood of the sphere. So you know already the vector field in the neighborhood of the boundary, and it is pointing inwards as beta. Same situation. Okay, so I think it's clear that you can continue the process. You extend your vector field, which is known on the boundary pointing inwards in S beta with singular points, isolated, finitely isolated singular points with indices. You extend by parallel extension in a tubular neighborhood, you continue the process. And at each time you will have the same formula, because the vector field is always pointing inwards, and each time you have the characteristic of your stratum minus characteristic of the boundary, which is already known. So by induction, you prove the Poincaré of theorem for singular varieties using radial vector fields. And you see that the property of radial vector field is fundamental for having this result, this one. Is it clear? There is also something, if you are purist, here, of course, you have a problem. And in fact, it's also a reason for which Marianne Schwarz is here also very technical, and she made things very carefully, and you have a lot of pages in order to prove things. And you see very well that you have here the conflict of this vector with extension with for the ball and the radial extension for the tubular neighborhood. Here, so in this part, you have two vector fields, and you have to do also some homotopy. And I let you imagine how you can make homotopy in order to have a continuous vector field, okay, in this part. Well, not enter into details because it's very technical, but it's possible to do, and that is what Marianne Schwarz did very carefully. That's clear. So you have this Marianne Schwarz theorem, which says that Euler characteristic of a singular variety X is the sum of indices of the radial vector field for all AI singularity for V being a radial vector field constructed by this radial extension process. Okay? It's time? No, 5 minutes. I have 5 minutes. Okay. In fact, I don't know if I can use by 3 minutes because Oh yes, changing completely subject. Okay, let me take my 10 minutes. Just giving you a definition that we will use tomorrow. And we have time to give this definition, which is completely, we change subject. And a definition of dual cell decomposition, dual to triangulation. We will use a lot this dual cell decomposition, so as I have 3 minutes, I can do in 3 minutes. It's very fast to do. So if you have a triangulation of the space, let me say what is a dual cell decomposition of this. In fact, well, the first thing you do is taking barycentric subdivision as you did yesterday already. We already yesterday used barycentric subdivision of space, okay? Like that. Okay? And if you have a simplex sigma with barycenter sigma hat, simplex of the triangulation, barycenter sigma hat, center sigma hat, and you take D of sigma, the dual cell of sigma, is a set of all simplices. So the triangulation is K, and K hat is a barycentric subdivision. So you take all simplices of the barycentric subdivision such that the intersection of tau and sigma is exactly sigma hat. For example, here you see that this simplex of the barycentric subdivision meets so simplices for me are closed simplices. So intersection of tau and sigma is exactly sigma hat. But if you take this two-dimensional, tau two-dimensional, that is not true because there is a one-dimensional simplex which is common. Okay? So this is okay, and this as well is okay. And of course sigma hat itself. So you have these two simplices of the barycentric subdivision satisfying the condition. Okay? And this is the dual cell of sigma. If you take for sigma this point and we say K hat, which is a vertex, the vertex is itself is barycenter, and you look at all simplices of the barycentric subdivision such that intersection with A is A hat, you have many of them. This one, this one-dimensional, this one-dimensional, so you have all these. And you see that the dual of A is here is a cell, two-dimensional cell. Okay, is a two-dimensional cell. That means homeomorphic to a ball, and the boundary is a sphere. Okay. Now, if you take, and what is interesting is to see that the boundary of the dual of A is made of the dual of all one-dimensional simplices whose A is a vertex. Can you see that? The boundary of the dual of A is made of all dual cells of the one-dimensional simplices of which A is the vertex. Okay? So the boundary of A is the union of dual cells. This is important. And now I can give also the dual cell of this sigma two-dimensional. So this was the sigma 1. If you take the triangle, the barycenter of the triangle sigma 2 is that point here. And what are all simplicities of the barycentric subdivision which meet sigma 2 only at sigma 2 hat? This one is a point. So T of sigma 2 is a point. And you see that if sigma is k-dimensional, the dual cell is, if you are in M, which is a manifold dimension M, then is N minus K dimensional. So it is complementary dimensional. For example, the dual cell of sigma 1, D of sigma 1, is not dimension 1. It's dimension 2 minus 1. Which is not the same. Okay? It's clear? Okay, so you know now what is the dual cell. So you can have a decomposition of the space with dual cells, and we will use this a lot in the following. So I take my 7 minutes. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the vector field that you're defined by this extension pure continuous or it's also different?
Continuous. You can do in a differentiable way, but this is more complicated. But the construction as it is, it's continuous. And for continuous vector field, and for Poincaréov's theorem, it's continuous. Okay?
In how much differentiable?
Sorry?
How much differentiable?
It can be done differentiable if you are in a differentiable manifold. You can do in at the same degree of the. If manifold is CK, it will be CK as well. But this is more delicate. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, let's thank the speakers.
Uh,
We're meeting.